I will bring in now Professor Dr. Sonja Munz from the University of Munich. She is the Vice President for Research, and I hope we can see her in a second. There she is. Good afternoon to Munich.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I'm very glad to have you. So, Professor Zaby lined out all the details, what it takes to become a professor at an University of Applied Sciences, and it takes a lot. But having said that, it is doable, it is feasible, and there are people who've done it. So now we want to hear from you. Professor Munz, you are, your general field of expertise, academic expertise, is tourism economics. And you specialize in empirical and econometric methods, but currently you are a hands-on manager as a vice president for research. So take us please on this journey and take us down the road you traveled to become where you are at now.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to do that. Actually, I never expected to end up here as a vice president. That's the first thing. And that's maybe something which is very typical for careers at the UAS university. When I've been studying sociology and economics, and then I stopped over to the Max Planck Society, and I've worked quite a long time as an economic policy consultant in the area of labor and social policy at the IFO Institute in Munich. At the same time, I also lectured at the Munich University already, and I really enjoyed that. So after some years of experience in the IFO Institute, my children were around about 7 and 11, and well, as it is, they were too old for extensive childcare and too young not to be cared for. So it has been quite nice to look for a new work environment, to swap the sides. And in collaboration with my husband, I really significantly improved my work-life balance. So, well, then I was there, and suddenly I recognized, okay, 18 hours teaching is quite a lot. Andreas already said, well, it's possible, but it's really demanding. And but there's also the possibility of reducing the teaching loads. And so I started doing that, doing research, but also doing, well, being active in the self-management. So I got first study dean, and then dean of the faculty. And so I ended up as a vice president for the Munich University of Applied Sciences. So it was not planned, it happened. And being creative, I ended here.
You talked about the challenges of work-life balance. I also have a question regarding the balance between being hands-on or like a manager at a University of Applied Sciences. At the same time, you're also a scientist, a researcher, still a lecturer. So how do you, work that?
Well, actually, that's the most demanding thing, really. Well, obviously, if you're under self-management, it can be a full-time job, but it's even more exciting if you're doing research as well, especially if you're a vice president for research. And actually, I really chose this sort of professorship at UAS because I really enjoyed working with students, doing hands-on teaching as well. So if you are really sort of happy what you are doing, you are able to do it.
Okay. Now, you said, or we will get throughout the afternoon, we will get a pretty good idea that there are many paths to become a professor. And so there are lots of options, but there are also lots of chances, as you pointed out, which one has to take when they, appear. So And there's so many chances, at least as many as there are options and research fields at universities. What kind of support do you offer, especially, say, in Munich at your university? What kind of a support system do you have in place to help people to basically with their onboarding, or even just, you know, for applying for a professorship?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, actually, we've got a whole variety of supporting opportunities for all the applicants. I may go on chronologically. First of all, if there is a postdoc who, well, you already graduated, you are already working in the industry or however, but you haven't any experience with lecturing, we've got a sort of tandem postdoc program. So you will get in contact, you get a contract with us where you are able to teach for 1 day per week with us, and you're still staying with your employer in the industry, for example. So we try to board you on in lecturing, for example. This is something we are handling within a program. I think Andreas Zaby will take the chance as well to introduce this program. And the second step is something where we even get more involved regarding the contract, and this is the shared professorship. So the idea is, if somebody is working in the industry or has been doing his his graduation, and he wants to, or she wants to or has together all the professional experience Andreas has been talking of, the 3 years or the 5 years. So you can have 50% a contract with us and 50% you are staying with the industry. So this is a sort of another path of onboarding to our university. And well, and then it's very important to say, we haven't got only one professorship. We haven't got only the teaching professorship. We've got also a research professorship, for example. This means it has a reduced teaching load from 18 to 9 working hours. And this is a research professorship where you can apply for if you are really good in research, and then you're obviously expected to do more research than other people do.
So that means really there's a really a big variety of support system or systems in place, so that people shouldn't shy away if they, you know, really consider becoming a professor, but, you know, they are either lacking some, you know, like academic experience or industry professional working experience in practice. Now, what do you say to people who would really like to become a professor but don't have their PhD yet, which clearly is a requirement?
Okay, I mean, I think that's the easiest bit. Doing a PhD, I would answer. Well, you can do a PhD either, well, obviously at a science university, but as already been said as well, more and more states get, more and more universities of applied sciences get the right to grant doctoral degrees. So in Bavaria, we are expecting to achieve this latest in the beginning of next year as well. So one possibility where to apply is as a researcher here at the Munich University or other university and do your PhD with us.
Right. So this is a good key to hand over to Professor Zaby, because in Berlin, actually, the PhD, I mean, it's already possible to do a PhD also at the University of Applied Sciences. You fought hard for it.
Yeah, well, it's been a long journey, of course, across Germany to have this right to grant the PhD degrees. And as I mentioned, 4 states already have it. Then it takes some time to have the adequate regulations in place, but this will be handled. And then depending on certain science clusters, be it in computer science, be it in social sciences or business administration, what have you, then we will start our first PhD programs. And that is something I think that is very attractive for the people amongst you that are interested in doing very applied type of research, potentially also in collaboration with a company. That is kind of in the sweet spot of the research that we're interested in. And we will be able to provide the infrastructure for that and the support systems for that for all of those that are lacking that qualification, but already have the practical industry experience.
So in your case, actually, what was first, the PhD or like the work experience or?
Okay, so my path was, I mean, pretty conventional, I guess. I went through a university training, got my master's degree, studied in Germany, but also in the United States, and then returned back to Germany to seek employment at a university and get my PhD working at a university. Working in a department of business administration in my case. And once I had the PhD degree, it became very clear that I had collected all the degrees I could, and I had to start working. And I joined an American consulting company doing strategic management consulting out of the offices in Munich and in Zurich in Switzerland. And after doing that for a couple of years, I quit. Together with one of my close colleagues, my boss actually at the time, and we started our own company, and that was in the biopharmaceutical space, headquartered in Munich and also in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina in the United States. My partner was the CEO, a chemist by training. I was the chief financial officer, and we grew this company through M&A transactions, through several rounds of venture capital financing. And after about eight or 9 years, we sold the company to an American pharmaceutical company. And that was kind of a transition phase for me. At that point, I had just turned 40 years old. The company was sold, and we, as a family, as a young family with our first child already born, we thought, okay, so what's going to be the next step? I thought that, we always loved Berlin, I liked academic work. I saw a job opening for a professorship. I remembered how much I enjoyed working at the university, and I thought that might be a very interesting career change. And I applied. I went through the process I described. I did my teaching, my lecture in front of the search committee. Went through the interviewing process and got the job. And I've been at the university ever since. After a couple of years, I took on some management responsibility, and now for 6 years, I've been the president of the university.
We are very glad you did. Carry on and stay. Now, this experience in the field, so to speak, and in the industry is a requirement to become a professor at the University of Applied Sciences. That's not for everyone. I mean, there are lots of people who really want to pursue the academic way, right? And that obviously is an extra obstacle, for maybe qualified candidates who would really, make a good professor, but they are still lacking industry experience. So why would you still advocate that this is really important and necessary?
Well, thanks for the question. I think this is really critical, and I think it's important advice for all of the potential candidates. So it is our DNA as universities of applied sciences that we are applied in everything we do, and we're oriented towards practical application. That means that in the scenario you just described, Silke, a person who is per se, and that's okay, per se not interested in practice and wants to do basic research, period, perhaps a University of Applied Science is not the right place. Okay, we've got to be clear about that too. But if you are, and you're just lacking the experience, as Sonja mentioned, we have quite a few options for you to gain the practical experience, to spend the required, at least the minimum required years, preferably even more, but at least a minimum of 5, of which 3 have to be in industry, and gain that experience. And you will see it is definitely worthwhile. It broadens your horizon, and it will then make you also a better teacher, because you are preparing the young people for practice. That gives you the credibility to do so in your classes.
Maybe because as we have a very international audience today, maybe this system or this model of University of Applied Sciences is pretty unique in the world. And so maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what role universities of applied sciences have within the higher education system of Germany, and where's their place?
Yeah, well, their place has been evolving over the last years or even decades. And I think they are now, the Universities of Applied Sciences are an integral part of the university system and the science system in our country. More and more students are selecting this type of education, I think for very good reasons. And I think that it's not only about the teaching and granting degrees, it's also about the applied research. So the Universities of Applied Sciences also lend themselves as, let's say, innovation engines in their region. Through the collaboration with the companies in the region and through spin-offs of startups, we are creating innovation and helping others to create innovation. So that's very important if you think of it as a cluster type activity. And then, of course, this is something that's being observed around the world.
May I just stop you
sure.
right there, because I would like to bring in Professor Munz again, because you pointed out that universities of applied sciences are very much set in the region. How is it in your case? How is the University of Applied Sciences Munich perceived in Bavaria?
Well, actually, I didn't quite catch your question, because I mean, do you mean where our students come from, or
where do your students come from? But also, how important is the university for, say, big companies in Bavaria?
Well, actually, first of all, most of our students are coming from Munich and roundabout Munich. So the regionality within Munich and roundabout is really very strong. And well, now it's maybe a little bit different if you're talking about University of Applied Sciences in Munich in a metropolitan area than if you're talking of a US somewhere in rural area. So that's somehow different. Still, we are working together with small and medium-sized companies as well, but obviously because we are in the middle of Munich situated, we work with big companies like BMW and stuff like that, very strong together as well. So, but that's really very, very important that we are having collaborations with the companies and the industry, because like Andreas already said, well, we are teaching hands-on, and we really want to give some realize some transfer activities, and this is very important to our students as well, because you have to think about our students are also quite often first-generation academics. Not always, and it's reducing, this share is reducing, but even so, if they are not first-generation academics, quite often they are really very keen of the meaningfulness of our contents, of our teaching contents, of our research contents, of seeing what can I do with that, what I'm learning here now, what can I do, what can I give, for what benefit will it have for the industry and for the society.
Thank you very much. So I take from that universities of applied sciences are really firmly rooted in the region. Having said that, you already hinted, it's not just, it doesn't stop there, right? I mean, universities of applied sciences have become a German bestseller abroad.
Oh yeah, I think what we're doing is being observed closely by many international actors as well. First of all, it's because we as universities of applied science interact with other universities abroad. We interact with research centers, with corporations abroad. There's many research projects that German professors are doing together with their peers at foreign partner universities. So that's one mechanism of international collaboration. But then, of course, there's also foreign government institutions coming here or delegations from foreign universities having a very close look at how does this work? How do we guarantee the type of practice orientation, that hands-on type orientation, and how can we be job market focused in providing the best possible training for our students to make them fit for the job market upon graduation. We're very happy to share this type of knowledge. I mean, Sonja knows this, there's the interest, and we share it. There's delegations coming in. We're also spreading the word about this type of educational, tertiary education. And UAS7 actually is an organization that provides consulting services for this type of internationalization.
Collaborating with other companies abroad, or in networks, is one thing. On the other hand, as a press spokeswoman, I know that the university at the Berlin School of Economics and Law has a lot of partnerships also with foreign universities. Maybe you can give some examples there, because this university is very international.
Gladly. I mean, this is something that applies to Munich just as well, or to the other 5 universities in our network. So the basis of our international collaboration is student exchange. So we have hundreds and hundreds of students per university that go abroad every year for a full semester, sometimes a full year, sometimes even in the context of double degree programs with our partners. So they get scholarships for that as well, either the Erasmus type scholarships or other types for overseas type mobilities. And then in approximately the same number, we will have students coming to us, spending time with us, and we're more than happy to welcome them every year. So that's the basis. And then building upon the student exchange, the next level is then faculty exchange, the professors interacting, staff members interacting, getting to know each other, maybe teaching together, and then hopefully even, and this is kind of the epitome of the collaboration, then also doing research together, and perhaps writing grant applications for the European Union, or publishing together, things of that sort.
Thank you very much. And now that we've already, unless Professor Munz wants to add something, I would then proceed and bring in the other 5 professors we invited this afternoon to give their story and their insights. And I thank you very much for this very interesting talk, and also, for all the details you shared. And I'm sure both of you would be approachable if anybody has a question. And we'll see you again at the end of this program. I almost said, this afternoon, when there are questions from the audience.